I haven't had a captive audience in about 10 years, so when I get speaking, I'm sure some of you better start tapping on your watch. My kids, I had 42 minutes when I used to be a high school English teacher, and boy, I'd like to keep them after class most days, but I took a little bit of a different approach to this in some ways. I'll certainly tell you about our operation, but I think Mariah wanted me to come and talk a little bit about why we do what we do, maybe instead of exactly what we do. And when Mariah first asked me to come, I thought about romanticizing about being a small dairy farmer in Wisconsin and how wonderful it was, and that temptation was very real for me. And because I'm so positive about our industry. I love our industry. I think our industry is great. But I do want to talk about what our real challenges are for us, with a 125 cow dairy in western Wisconsin. I will tell you, be careful what you wish for. As a young boy growing up, there was a dairy just up the road, and I really wanted to be able to farm in that barn. And every time we drove by, I'd tell my mom, hey, this is the barn I'd like to be in someday. And lo and behold, as I was an English teacher, when our barn burned down, as luck would have it, that barn became available, and we ended up buying that. And to be honest, it ended up to be a very fortunate event for us. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about why we do and what we do, and kind of our mantras in doing. And there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. There really is. And just like that, there's 1,000 different ways to farm. Everybody in this building is unique if you're milking cows. However, we're all the same because the end product that we're trying to sell is milk for the most part. But many of us like milk, where we sell butter, we sell cream, and we sell whey and all those kinds of things. We try to do an added value to our dairy herd. And by that, it might be genetics. It might be selling bull calves. It might be selling corn. And for us, we do a lot of value-added things. Our key is diversification. We do many different things that I'll get into, but with diversification, we like to have flexibility. We like to have things that do multi-purpose uses. For example, Eroy, our prominent cow, we find her to be not only excelling in type and production, she excels in components, and she transmits and she reproduces. And so we like things to have that kind of value. We do a lot of different things. For example, I sell shavings. My brother does a lot of custom field work, and we try to buy things that hold value, that the resale is there. I'll give you a little bit of an overview of our operation. As Mariah said, it consists of about 1,000 acres. Usually, we don't carry as many hay acres. We have 350 acres of hay, but that's because we've been so dry lately, and we've got 500 acres of corn, and the balance is pasture and new seedings. We have 400 head of cattle, about 125 milk cows, usually with 150 in total. Right now we've got about 20 or 30 bulls on hand, and then the balance is heifers. 2 time a day rolling herd average around 24,000 with a 3.6 and a 3.1. We bed with sand, we bed with sawdust, and we also have a compost barn that I think is kind of one of our neatest little deals. We do a lot of construction and repair. In the last 10 years, because of the way we started and without much capital, we learned to build. We built 8 sheds of our own that I'll kind of show you in a little pictorial. We do all our own cement work, and then we've also turned to doing a lot of that for some of our neighbors. And as I said, we provide shavings to 12 different dairies. One of the things, we've got about 4 mantras, and one is work hard, work fast, but work patient. Try to get as much done in the day as we can. To give you an idea, my wife often asks, what are you going to do today? And I give her a list that's about 2 pages long, and she says, there's no way you can accomplish all that. And I said, I know, but if I do, I'm going to feel really good. And my brother, who's married to Erin Nelson, and she'd attest to this. There's a lot of days when we're going, our work crew is fairly small, fairly limited. He, a lot of days will start 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I start usually a little later, 4 or 5. We usually work all day, eat most of our meals either in the tractor or the barn. He quits a little earlier than me if we're doing field work, 8 or 9 o'clock, and then usually I haul all my sawdust at night. Most of my clients will allow me to back in and dump. We've got things set up. I cover a 60-mile radius. Everybody in our family kind of has a role. My mom and dad are still involved. My dad runs a machine shop. He's a technician for Select Siders, and he still helps us a little bit with field work. My mom works at the bank, but she takes care of all our young calves. She does our book work and some of our gardening. Erin, of course, works at the cattle connection. And the great thing about having Erin in the family now is she can basically do anything. She can fill any of the roles from driving tractor to milking cows. My wife is an art teacher, and she does a lot of gardening, and she's the primary caregiver of our children, which quite honestly is the most important task on our farm. And like I said, Ryan and I have various roles within the farm, from milking to field work, but we do have 2 or 3 part-time employees, and they're pretty valuable. When we first started in 2000, we milked 3 times a day. We had about 30 cows. Ryan took a herdsman job at 2 different farms, well, 1 at first and then 1 later. And between the 2 of us, we'd usually do 7 milkings a day. Between the three at our place, I would do ours in the morning and he would do 1 in the morning. He would do our noon and I would do a neighbor's noon. He would do 5 o'clock for a different guy, and I would do 5 o'clock for another guy, and then he would do our night, and I would do his night for another neighbor. By doing that, we were able to buy a lot of our early cattle without having to borrow money. In fact, every time a Morris sale came up, we usually had enough cash to get out and get something bought. And quite honestly, managing debt is probably the most important thing we do. Some of the other things we've done in the last 10 years, we bought an aqua cow, and we ran around and we floated cows, and we charged somebody a couple $100 if we could save them. But to be honest, that was a really negative experience. Not necessarily because of what we were doing, but because most of the time cows don't live when they're in the condition they are when we get there. And though I enjoyed that and I have numerous stories about that, we still rent the aqua cow out, and we still give advice, but we don't run around and do that anymore. We've done a lot of custom harvesting with the small crew that we've got. We do our own field work, and then now we've cut it back. We only do about 400 acres additional. But we used to supply for 2 other farms, a 200 cow dairy and a 100 cow dairy. We do the corn planting, the combining, a little hay chopping, and a lot of spraying. Like I said, we've done all kinds of construction. We've built everything under the sun. Basically, we learned to do that because one of the part-time kids we had when we were first there, we were talking about building a shed. We looked at what it would cost us to do it. And he said, I can help you do it. And that's all it took, quite honestly. We jumped in and we went crazy. And every winter now, we've put posts in the ground. We put the posts in the ground in November when we're done combining. And on the nice days, usually from like 10 to 2, we go out and we pound nails, or we've done some steel buildings now, and they're a lot easier, I think. So that's been interesting. Like I said, the shavings business is also something that adds value to our operation. We've been doing that for 3 years. Now, something else I started in the last 2 years, because we had landscaping. We're in a very populated area in St. Croix County, just across from Minneapolis-St. Paul. So at night, if I'm not doing shavings, I was supposed to be doing one this weekend. We do a lot of patios. I've got a guy that I used to teach with, and we get together and we go out and do like sidewalks and patios and stuff like that. I guess the only reason I talk about those kinds of things is to tell you, if there's something you want to accomplish and it's important to you, no amount of sacrifice or any amount of sacrifice can be done to make it happen. And I do think our little part of the world, the dairy industry, is a fabulous place to be.